from the initial report yesterday to everything we've seen happen since then to this point. What do you make of the last day for Tennessee and where the story is now?
Never a dull moment, right? I mean,
that's right.
There's always something. I think this is something, Tennessee sure wasn't surprised yesterday. They've known that, the NCAA had been to campus over the last handful of months and had talked to some student athletes. I think Tennessee feels really secure with where they are in their defense of themselves, which is why Donde Plowman came out so strong. And I think it says a lot about the administration of Tennessee when you factor in, 3 years ago, Donde Plowman sat up there and, threw herself on the sword and said, guilty, we're guilty, we're guilty. Yesterday she was defiant the other direction, saying, we're not guilty. She used, Mr. Baker's words against him. And so I think, we're to a standoff now where the thing's going to end up in court. And, the NCAA has not had a great track record the last handful of cases, when they've had to battle it out, especially for, the ability for players to, benefit off their name, image, and likeness. And so, I think, we're headed for a showdown in court, and get your popcorn ready.
What did you make of the release from Tom Mars, the lawyer for Spyre, when he laid out the relationship between Nico and Spyre and how that came about and how it's not just mutually exclusive to Tennessee? Spyre represents Nico no matter what school that he would have went to. What was your reaction to that release from Tom Mars?
Well, I've known that was the case the whole time, and so I knew in February when they signed Nico to the marketing deal, like it was everybody's kind of getting the curtain pulled back on, going, whoa, wait a minute, this didn't lock him into Tennessee. All of a sudden he can win anywhere. Yeah, Tennessee won a recruiting battle without it. I know everybody's going to point to the money, but at the same time, like Nico, could have went to Alabama, could have went to Oregon, and they would have owned his marketing, rights and, at that school. It was a calculated gamble, obviously. But, he ended up just falling in love with Tennessee and falling in love with Josh Heupel and the offense and the people and all that. So, I think, for Nico, the kid's obviously going to have 1,000 eyeballs on him, no matter what, right? Or I know it's more than 1,000, but you know what I'm saying. And now it's increased even more with all this. And so, if anybody can kind of hold up under the intense spotlight, I think it could be him, just because of his demeanor and the way he kind of approaches things. But I think everybody kind of got the curtain pulled back a little bit to see how some of this works, behind the scenes when Tom Mars put out that statement yesterday. And again, it validates anytime he came to campus after he became a client of Spyre, which is an agency. You see a lot of people in like Volunteer Club is the collective. Spyre is the agency. They are two separate entities. Now you have, people working at, for both, but it's still two separate entities. And I think, it validates, his comments really validate, what Tennessee has in their defense, that every time he came to town, it was as a client of Spyre, and he came here. He met with, production companies in town about documentaries of his life and career. He met with local clothing manufacturers, to go over like a line of pajama pants. He was big into the pajama pants in the 7-on-7 circuit. And I mean, again, Tennessee has receipts on everything. And so, it's going to be an interesting charge here as the NCAA tries to, find some reason to try to get their pound of flesh out of Tennessee, since they couldn't do it under the Jeremy Pruitt case.
We're talking to Austin Price from Volquest.com. The initial report from SI mentioned multiple sports. Do you know why that is the case? As since then, the entire conversation has been around Nico, but multiple sports was mentioned. Do you know why?
Well, I think they're trying to tie, Tennessee's collective to different sports. And, obviously it all starts with Nico, but they tried to branch it off that way. If things failed going down, the Nico rabbit hole, they could pivot to another sport. So, again, the NCAA, I think, knew Tennessee was going to push back, and they leaked this out to Pat Forty, and Pat's just doing his job. I know he gets a lot of hate. He's doing his job, and he took what was handed to him. But what did he ever say, right? He said details are scarce, but then had the flashy headline. So, they're trying to, I guess, drag Tennessee into the mud a little bit here from a public perception standpoint. The problem is, it's really backfired. You've seen Alabama fans on Paul Feinbaum taking up for Tennessee. You've seen a lot of national media taking up for Tennessee. The NCAA is not well beloved by anybody. Every school thinks the NCAA is out to get them, just like most schools think every ref that's on the court or the field is out to get them. And so, I'm not sure that the old playbook was, real great here for the NCAA. But hey, it's the direction they've went. So now I think they have to kind of go full speed ahead, or they look incredibly weak if they don't, shoot their half-court shot here.
Austin Price, Volquest.com. How important is it for Tennessee when it comes to recruiting? The last case, the cloud that hung over Tennessee's head was how it was used against Tennessee in recruiting, and because no one ever really knew what Tennessee was going to face as far as infractions, so people could just make it up. Now they could technically do the same thing. How much do you think Tennessee is out in front in terms of recruiting, making sure that recruits understand that Tennessee is not in danger of getting in trouble, as maybe some other schools may try to sell to them?
Well, Tennessee hit the ground running last night, Jason. They were on the phone with all the recruits. The recent signees, the 2025s, 2026s, they were really kind of trying to be out in front of it and explain it to kids. Most kids don't even understand it, so I don't think it really enters into the mind of a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old. Where it does enter into the mind is to the 40- and 50-year-old and 30-year-old parents of these kids. And, I think, Tennessee has some experience having done it the first time around, and now that you've got the backing of the chancellor, the backing of Danny White, the backing of the governor, the backing of the attorney general, I mean, it makes Tennessee's ability to sell it probably a little better this time. And, so I think that could it have an impact with some? Absolutely. Do I think it will have the impact that it had in 2022? I do not.
Virginia and Tennessee linked up for the lawsuit against the NCAA. Any idea of why Virginia with Tennessee, and any idea of other states looking to join Tennessee and Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chatter out there about Mississippi. There's some chatter out there about a few other states. I think that's something you could definitely see as time goes on. I think this won't be the last time you see a school that's, attached to some allegations over NIL in the next, week or two. And, when that happens, I would say you'll see those states join up with Tennessee and Virginia. I think Virginia did it because, the attorney general, was friends with their attorney general, and, they did a good job of selling it. And at the end of the day, a lot of these states, want to be proactive for the athlete. I think that's the one thing going for Tennessee, Jason, when they sell it to these, recruits, is, hey, we're looking out for our student athletes. That's a real feather in Tennessee's cap, because right now it is much more prevalent. In 2022, it was really in its infancy. And now NIL is such a much bigger piece to the pie of a recruitment or whatever that, I think that parents, uncles, coaches, 7-on-7 coaches, whoever, I think they're going to be much more inclined to go, you know what, they're looking out for my kid and, the next generation of kid, and, the NCAA is not. And so, the whole notion that this is just going to hurt Tennessee in recruiting, I think, a little bit, I'm sure it can, and could with a few, but I think it could also help Tennessee's case with some of these kids when they see that as well. So I think Virginia and other states that join eventually will see the same type thing.
Austin, our conversation, a lot of it is around the news from yesterday. Tennessee's coaches, you mentioned they're on the phones, they're having conversations with prospects. What's next in terms of an itinerary when they're going to try to get some of these highly touted guys to campus? They dealt with weather that cost them some guys getting to campus a couple weeks ago. What's the next couple of weeks, next month look like as we head into February?
Well, this next weekend or this coming weekend will be the last weekend until March that campuses are open for visitors, and so it's a dead period after this weekend, Sunday at midnight, and so Tennessee will host a junior day on Saturday, and so they'll have several 2025s and 2026s on campus, and so again, I think that'll be probably a point of emphasis, is to really drive home the point that Tennessee's admin, the state of Tennessee stands behind its players and has its back, and Tennessee's collective has never missed a payment. And they do things above board, and I think that'll be a real battle cry when Tennessee talks to recruits this weekend and then going forward.
Time to whip out the old Al Davis projector screen and give a presentation to the recruits. Let them know what's going on.
I remember those old projector screens, man. That's like 4th grade, 3rd grade. Man, take me back to Rogersville City School, Fairview Elementary School, and Hamlin County. I mean, those were the days, guys. Those were the days. The old projector screen. Take me to Mr. Henderson's Tennessee history class, 7th grade, Eastridge Middle School. I can keep naming some of my teachers.
Yeah, remember if the teacher would roll in the big 1,000-pound TV?
Oh, yeah.
The triple layer?
We chilling today.
Busting out the movies.
Yeah, speaking of Mr. Henderson, he'd bring that big TV in there, and we'd watch the Heartland series with Bill Landry with Tennessee history. Those were the days, buddy. That's when the world was a much better place.
So much simpler.
Yep. Take us back. But in college athletics, it is time to move forward. Austin, we appreciate you joining us today. As always, the coverage continues at Volquest.com, where you can read from Austin and his colleagues, Volquest.com. Hey, Austin, thanks for the time as always. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.